Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is a very exciting update in our series entitled The Monster, The Return. And that's part 3. Let's get straight into that. As a reminder, this is all being transcribed by me. What you are about to read, I'm only taking dictation of what my friend is saying, at his request. We're basically family, and if that makes me complicit, so be it. Here's hoping you are appropriately scared by the cryptids that lurk in the night. God damn, it's been hot out. It's hard to call this fall when it's 90 fucking degrees outside. Are you going to tell them why you delayed putting out your story? Why not? It's been hot as blue blazes, and BicIsMyPensName and I have been quite busy. He's been helping our mutual acquaintance deal with some things, and after that I recruited him to help me with our next big hunt. We've been setting up and getting ready, and we're going to take on an alpha this fall. Very exciting. 9 foot, maybe 10. Nothing but muscle and aggression. He'll be wary. It will be an excellent hunt. Anything else? Yes, vampires are arseholes. Psychic energy stealing motherfuckers. I hope she fucking chokes on it, and it gives her whatever the vampire equivalent of the shits are. I hope her fangs fall out and she's forgot how to read. That is all we will say about that. Anne Rice never put it so eloquently. Shut up. I'm still kind of pissed off at you. I have to tell this next part without letting people know where I was. Plus, it's too fucking hot out. All of our work for that big un just needs to sit for a couple of weeks. Just keep up. I want to get through the bait hunt and maybe into the actual hunt. Whatever you say, we can start whenever you're ready. Dating sites aren't particularly hard to find women. The issue, in fact, is finding the right kind of woman. Remember how I said if you want to hunt ducks, go where the ducks are. Tinder is for hookups. OkCupid and the like are for relationships. If you can't figure that out, you're probably too stupid to procreate anyway. Seriously, it makes it hard to hunt when your prey has already winded another predator. Make no mistakes, aggressive guys trolling dating sites are predators. They're just shitty ones. Remember, the best way to hunt is to have your prey come to you. If I was going to lure a dogman into this honeypot, first I had to be cunning enough to catch a young woman to use as bait. That meant no one-night stands. I had to lure a woman into trusting me enough that I could get her into the woods alone at night. No easy feat by any standard. I briefly considered finding a fetish-type connection, something along the lines of being part of nature. But if you've ever been bitten by a black fly or a horsefly, you know why I wasn't too keen on exposing my dangly bits to the northern Michigan night air. I mean, really, the mosquitoes alone would be enough to drive any sensible person away. Still, it was an option. Though I think, given the results, I'd say I was untimely right. Lesson 1. For hunting women online. Don't send a dick pic. Don't be a creep. Don't be overly aggressive. It doesn't work. I don't care what kind of game you think you've learned from quasi-rapping drunk girls at parties. Ladies on the internet are afraid for their safety. Writing stuff that would make a 4chan regular squirm is not going to get you into anyone's panties. Lesson 2. For hunting women online. Don't be overly passive, overly friendly floor mat of a guy. You bring that Charles Boyle overdoing it. I just want to be your forever friend and give you someone to listen to crap. You might be slightly more successful than a dick pic guy, but it's weak sauce. Women will find you lame. You're the fucking friend zone guy. You're the cuck that a woman walks all over as she gets what she needs from other Guys, it's creepy and pathetic. You come off as too pathetic, wanting too much attention and too much commitment too early. Lesson 3. You want to make them feel safe. You want to push their comfort zones, but only in so much that they don't feel threatened or fear for their physical safety. It's easy, really. Suggest that I'd be alright if she wanted to take a friend on the first date, or that you both do. Make the first date somewhere open, somewhere public, somewhere where people will see you. This is hiding in plain sight. This is just to get her to let her guard down. Trust me, I won't take too long. Lesson 4. Plant lots of seeds. Don't be afraid to make multiple accounts and to message lots of women, giving each woman a separate demeanour and profile. After all, the more marks you bring in, the better your chances for success. Learn from your past mistakes. Focus on keywords. The end goal is to have her come with you. So drop the right phrase at the right time and she's eaten out of the palm of your hand. Lesson 5. It's all about power struggle. You want her to think she's getting her way. Think back. Do you remember what I said about Disney? It's true. Disney's plot formula doesn't change too much. In fact, most of their characters are essentially the same. It's almost like some plucky young heroine meeting some rough around the edges dashing hero in need of some paradigm shift. Like clockwork, they transition from Disney to things like Eat, Pray, Love. They don't really change, they just grow from one princess story to the next. If she thinks she's Ariel, be her Eric. If she thinks she's Belle, be her Beast. Bonus tip, it may seem shallow, but no matter what people say, ladies don't want no scrubs. Flash some cash. Be subtle about it. Nice cars, nice clothes in your profile. Make it seem like you've travelled a lot. They can't help themselves. Women are instinctively driven to being provided for and dominant genes. Get her to think that you're strong, but that through pluck and determination, she's a bit stronger. And there you have it. The rest is just making it seem like you're the reformed Prince Charming. God, it's such bullshit. She had been single for almost a year. Easy pickings, really. Found her various social media feeds, all too easy to figure out when she last broke up. Pretty public about it, really. Parents died in a motorcycle accident. Bad relationship with her sister. They don't speak anymore. Seemingly lots of friends, but I would call them friendly acquaintances. All of it right there in the open for anyone to see. She wasn't really active on the dating site, but her profile was there, and anyone that wanted could find out that much about her without getting a background check. I can remember thinking, it won't be that hard to make her disappear if I need to. I paid a private eye to tail her for a couple of weeks, followed by a couple myself. You'd be surprised at how predictable people are. They get into their little routines and feel safe. She never even knew I was there. Hell, her neighbours didn't even get suspicious. Just act like you belong wherever you're at, and people are mostly too self-absorbed to notice. Finally, as the time was getting right, I created some profiles for some conmen I used from time to time. Their job was to play the characters I had created to get her dating again. All they had to do was to get her to come out of her shell a little bit. Make it friendly, but not too romantic, and then I would come in. It was essentially a handoff. Whichever of them she dated would set up a situation so that she and I would be introduced. Worked like a charm. If I was a less than scrupulous fellow, I could have had her on a plane to be some rich pervert sex slave or someone's personal organ donor. It's nice to know that even if your plans fall through, that you've got a backup plan. Speaking of backup plans, it's not like she was the only girl I was seeing in that time frame. Not at all. She just happened to be the most promising prospect. Every meeting I had just kept dropping little subconscious hints prepared from her background check, and each time the response was way better than the previous. It became pretty clear that she was the most promising prospect. She was so completely unaware of herself and what I was doing that she became the front runner. Just keep stroking her ego in just the right ways, and sure enough, things just start taking off. I mean, come on, she posted all of her likes all over social media. Hell, if I didn't trust that, I could just look through her photos and her posts. Whatever shows up a lot, you exploit. You say you hate what she hates. You say you love what she loves. Too easy. All the easier if you search her profile for a series of failed relationships. That girl was as vapid as they come. And so all it took was pushing the right buttons and some patience. I really wondered if I'd sprung the hunting on her too soon. I mean, the character I was playing was uber masculine, but still a subservient gentleman, just like all the stupid Disney males. Still, you never quite know how someone is going to respond hunting when they grow up in such a mollycoddled liberal environment. To spring guns on her, it was pretty easy. On all early date, take her to a range. On an early date, take her to a range. Maybe bust some clays. You're challenging her. If she refuses outright, you've seriously misjudged, and it's best just to cut your losses. If she seems unsure, you're golden. She won't want to appear unwilling and is jockeying for dominance. She won't want to relinquish the idea that you are more adventurous than her. Once that is established, you're free to talk about it, free to compare. It's a safe zone, even if you never go shooting with her again. Hunting is a different story. Many people won't make the connection between hunting and shooting. If I'm wearing my Second Amendment hat, I say that's a good thing. In this case, you'd be surprised how long it would take someone to connect the dots. Basically, if you have to wait for her to run out of steam to get a word in edgewise, you have to let her talk and talk and talk. Finally, when she's sitting there in semi-awkward silence and mentioned your plans to go hunting, you'll have to navigate some tricky waters, but start with less friendly, cuddly animals. Wild hogs, birds. Maybe you took a trip down to Puerto Rico to hunt iguanas. Build your way up to the mammals, unless she likes to garden or she had a relative in a car-deer collision. If you go on big trips, make sure to throw that out there. Women are funny that way. You're basically telling her that you aren't afraid to spend money on things you like. Big trips get girls wet. When you're talking about going to South Africa or South America, she is picturing herself poolside at a luxury resort, tweeting her jealous friends about it. Also, if I were being honest, if you're taking her to nice dinners, don't use coupons obviously, but do you really think she's going to complain so long as you're paying? I mean, really guys, feminists like equality, so long as it works in her favour. It's all about power play, so just keep feeding her line. You'll land her so long as she thinks you're paying her tribute. Let's see. Nice car? Seems cliche, but it's true. Pop singers can sing about loving men without a dime to their name. But how many of them do you see picking guys up off the street? Women are every bit as shallow as the men they berate for it, but in slightly different ways. They want to see nice cars, i.e. money. They want to see nice clothes, i.e. money. They want to see a nice house because it means you're good. You're a good provider, which in today's society means money. You want to bitch about how money can buy so much privilege and power. Then stop being so petty and shallow people. Demonstrate money and power and watch all the women that will melt in your hand, even the self-described feminists. The final part I can't help you with. Making a woman laugh is easy relationship points. The best I can help you with is look for the subtle clues about things she doesn't like and then goof on them. We all have things we've teased about in the past. If you're hunting a girl, tease the same things that she teases, and maybe, just maybe, you can get some giggles out of her. If she wonders why you're still single, The cliche is that you just haven't found the right girl. If you can't sell that, you want to bring up the hunting and shooting you've already established, and that you're just too busy with work or whatever. If you get into too much trouble, show her you doing something manly like splitting wood, shirtless or whatever. She'll forget about it pretty quickly if you picked a good prey. After a couple of weeks of regular dates, it's fine to start taking trips together. Remember, you're trying to butter her up to be bait, so you want to desensitize and accustom her to the things she will be doing as your bait. If you're going to have her in a scent trap, take her to places where you sleep with the windows open. If you want her in the woods, take her to remote locations with day hikes in the woods. The more things she does under the guise of romantic adventure, the more she will be willing to accept when she is bait in a trap. It helps, of course, if she's naive. You can't tell her that that's what the locals do, or that's what the custom is. Works pretty well. A little better than 50-50, I'd say. I had already had the spot in Michigan picked out pretty much since right after finishing my research I had started during the plane ride back from South America. It was my property with one of the cabins, and it was remote enough that I knew no matter how or what I got up to, I wouldn't have to worry about nosy interruptions. But before I could get her there to the final trap, I had to get her out into the wilds of northern Michigan. I think my last little bit of trepidation was getting her to stay somewhere so remote. So, as I said, many of the romantic getaways include trips to rural parts of the world with day hikes far off the beaten path. I had to convince her that this was essentially the same thing. It helped that I owned the place. Hell, Michigan's west coast is objectively very romantic, and it made things so much simpler. I would get her into the area I had scouted and parade her right in front of the face of whatever was out there. Thank God for all of the wineries. It's so much easier to get people to do things of questionable judgment when alcohol is involved. He says while drinking a bourbon and confessing to luring a young woman to be bait for a monster. I mean, look at it this way. Do you think someone would turn down a free bottle of fine wine if they received it from Amazon as a gift? A bottle just showed up. Do you think they would just turn it down? Of course not. Wine is fun. It's fruity. It's been helping women make bad choices with men for thousands of years. If it's a nice enough wine, you can booze on it like a lush, and you're just indulging a sophisticated palate instead of sucking down Ripple like a wino. If it's cheap wine, so what? Who's someone else to judge what you like? Drink it out of a box for all anyone cares. It's a cheap, easy tool that makes all of this so much easier. At this point, she was putty in my hands, and the day drinking was just part of the fun of camping. I was sure there would be something out there. I had been researching this for months. I had looked at population ratios and missing persons reports in those counties stretching back years. I analysed missing persons trends along with livestock losses and mutilations. I was sure there was something out there, so now I just had to piss it off. Did we cover that already? I think we did. Fresh reminder. One of the best ways to hunt territorial animals is to invade their territory. They hate it. Pisses them off no end. You want to catch it really big pike. Piss it off. You want to get an animal to charge you. Piss it off. So, if you want to get a dogman to come to you, go into its territory and piss it off. Just being there is usually enough to give them my limited experience. But that wasn't going to be good enough this time. Oh no. I had her pissing all over everything in a wide circumference, so there was no way a dogman could ignore it. Every glass of wine, every squat in the woods, all the biodegradable wipes were there to push her pissy scent right up that canine nose. I wanted this thing so enraged that when we were there, marking its territory, that it was damn near to blind rage. I got it too. That first night we were camping together. She was still too timid to sleep in a tent. A hut or trowel lean-to was apparently fine, but tent on all sides was just too much. No problem. I needed her to be there. My scent could be there too, but mostly importantly, I need her scent as widespread as possible. When it became apparent that it wasn't going to work the way I had originally imagined, I improvised very quickly. Your scent will carry even in a closed car. Call it a setback, but not a major one. BicIsMyPensName and I have done this on many hunts when we were starting out. Before we earned any kind of real money, we both had camped in the back of trucks. It's typically warmer and more comfortable than sleeping straight on the ground in a tent. It wasn't what I planned, but not altogether bad either. In case we encountered one that was more aggressive than I had anticipated, which, based on the large sum of testimonies I have read and heard, was a real possibility. Plus, that first night wasn't the biggest test anyway. That would come later. Tonight was just about acclimatizing her to her surroundings. Maybe an upright bipedal canine would feel threatened and come get us, but I would have been really surprised if it could pick me out from all the other campers on nothing but intent. Plus, there was no reason why I couldn't make the trip fun. People are at their most relaxed and most unsuspecting when they're having fun. Local farmer markets for fresh sweet corn. Walleye caught that day. Jet ski and four-wheeler riding. Pretty idyllic, right? A couple of days like that, and you could see the deal was just about anyone. I wanted her to think that's what I was there for. Like her pussy was so special that I would go to all this trouble and jump through so many hoops just to have it. God, women must think their vaginas give them magical powers. It's not that special, and I could have had it a lot more of it, a lot sooner, if I was inclined. This wasn't about that. It wasn't about getting into her pants no matter how much she might believe that. Letting her think that she was leading me on is part of this dance. The more she thinks that she's making me work for it, air quotes, with a cigar in hand, how does he not get ash all over himself? The more she thinks she is in control. The more she thinks that, the easier it is for me to get her where I want her as bait for that freaking bipedal canine. People don't know what true romance is anymore. They don't know, so they default to whatever they see on TV. If some marketing exec says licking someone's armpit is the new sexy romantic thing to do, people will do it. You will have women coming out of the woodwork to say how their man licks their armpits and how romantic and erotic it is. Luckily, they haven't done too much of that. But lakeside wineries facing beaches and sunsets with kitschy merchandise and fine wine, more air quotes, is something that just about every sitcom elevates to the level of romantic ideal. We hit up said kitschy winery right around when they opened. I wasn't about to waste daylight, and cherry wine is in a much more limited supply than grape wine. I wanted her to know that she was enjoying something that not a lot of other people would, and I wanted it to seem romantic. I wanted it to get her putting her smell all over the territory of where I believed there would be dogmen. Picnic supplies in tow, I took her to our first stop. Yum, yum. Deli sandwiches, wine and cheese served in a delightful little clearing. What could possibly be wrong with that? A romantic picnic in the woods. How fun! I remember it clearly. I could hear the cicadas. I could hear woodpeckers and squirrels. I could hear it all when suddenly I felt the most intense feeling of being watched that I had ever had. And then a completely and utter silence. If you don't know the feeling of being watched, it's hard to explain. Some people never have this feeling. They're completely unaware when someone is close by and watching them. Others feel it very acutely. I honestly don't know how anyone could not feel what I felt. It felt like concentrated malice was focused on me. When I felt that combined with the level of silence, I knew I had found my prize. I shushed that dumb twit, because if something big was going to come through the woods, I damn right wanted to hear it well before it was too late. I knew something was watching us, and I knew I had its attention. Now, I had to reel it in. Maybe she did feel it on some subconscious level, because even after only what seemed like a little bit of wine, she had to relieve herself. Excellent. It was perfect. Here we are, close enough that I could feel this son of a bitch watching us, and she has to pee. I couldn't have planned it any better than that. It would be like having some drunk chick come into your living room and piss in the middle of your carpet. Unless you're into that kind of thing, yeah, you're probably going to blow your top, which is exactly the reaction I wanted. If you've ever paper trained a dog, you know how effective it can be. You would have thought I was a spokesperson when the way I talked up those stupid wipes. Yes, they're handy and good for exactly what she used them for, but come on, ladies, are you going to sit there and tell me that you're not at least a little bit suspicious if a guy starts talking up how wonderful freaking wipes are? It was all too perfect. Her scent all over, the wipes staking it like their claim. God damn, I'm good. After she heeded nature's call, we had to get out of there. She might have not have been able to tell very well, but I could hear the deliberate sounds of something herding us down that path. We had insulted it hard, and now it wanted us gone. If I was a normal person, if I didn't know any better, and I hadn't had any other plans, I might have just left it at that. I'm not any of those things, though. I wanted to keep poking the bear, quotes with a glass of bourbon in hand. I was going to move us, but I was going to do it in a way that didn't spook her, and to make sure that I pissed off this Dogman even more. I could hear it when it wanted to make itself heard, and when it did that, I slowed down. I basically flicked its nose. When something is big, bad, and intimidating, and you act like there's nothing wrong, it's going to get frustrated. Predators chase prey animals because they run. Predators snap at rivals because they want them to leave without risking themselves getting hurt. This thing had little fear from us at that time. I only had my concealed piece, but I wanted it to be mad. I was hoping it was getting my little insinuations that I knew it was there, and I didn't care. I'll admit, the experience was intense, far more intense than I would have liked to have believed. But I wasn't about to back down now. By the time the Tahoe was back in sight, it had left off the trail and stopped trailing us. The forest noise came back with a telltale sign. I still didn't know if that's some kind of infrasound noise cancellation they do, or if everything really does go quiet out of fear of them. In any case, it was gone for the moment, and it was time to press my advantage. I got her into the truck and had a hard time holding in my excitement. As close to death as we had just come, and we were still here to tell the tale. That's a win in my book. Hell, if it was most people, they would be running off to tell the world about their creepy encounter in the woods. Not me. Anything worth doing was worth doing right. I popped open a bottle of sherry Chrysler that I knew would run right through her. She was going to down that stuff like pop, and it was going to go all according to my plan. All I had to do now was circle that clearing in a big enough radius to make sure that that monster would be smelling her piss from all directions. When the wine ran out, I gave her bottled water to keep the juices flowing. Finger quotes whilst pacing. Ever the doting boyfriend, I kept the supply of drinks and wipes coming. I seriously doubt she realised we circled the same area several times. A drunk girl with no woods experience keeping track of markers while she's busy talking about herself and downing sweet cherry wine. Please. I could have driven us off the Mackinac Bridge, and she wouldn't have even known until the airbags deployed and water started flushing in. I knew exactly where we were and what I was doing. but I guess to someone that's not used to the forest, everything looks the same. I know all those 2 tracks like the back of my hand, and I have driven them more times than I care to count. I was trying to maximise the time in the field, but all good things must come to an end. Eventually, I decided to call it, and I took us to the main dirt road that would get us back to the state highway. Just then, I decided to press my luck some. What would happen if I could sit us just still, just for a little bit? I had been driving us pretty fast down those tracks, only stopping long enough for piss breaks for hours. What would happen now if I let our scent settle just enough that something could pinpoint us? All I needed now was an excuse. What better than dusk and a field full of fireflies? Sometimes a plan just comes all together. I turned off the engine, but turned the key over so we could put the windows down. This clearing was upwind of the piss circle we'd been making all day. If something had been tailing us, there was a good chance it would come from the other side of the clearing. Sometimes your plans can go a little too well. In this case, I might have pushed it a little too far. I'm sure I saw it before it saw us. That massive, dark outline was unmistakable. I caught it in my peripheral vision. It was time to go now. The plan had worked too well, and the clearing was not enough space between us and it. I was going to very calmly and coolly start the truck when she had to open her goddamn mouth. "Is that a bear?" she said in a sneering female caricature while making hand puppet gestures. Had she not opened her mouth, we might have avoided that whole incident. I mean, I can see why she might think it was a bear with no frame of reference, but let's say that it was. Is your next course of action to shout it to the fucking treetops? Jesus Christ, some people just have shit for brains. Playtime was over. I told her to roll it up. I wanted to get a whiff of her. I wanted it to get a whiff of her, and I wanted it to tantalise it. But I wasn't going to have a showdown with me being barely armed. The fiddling with the keys, yes, that was play acting. I wanted to see it closer. I wanted the truck ready to move, but I wanted to see how this thing was going to react so close to people. My God, it was fast. Crazy fast. Big lopping strides like a Saluki or a greyhound. Massive, powerful arms and legs propelled it forward like you wouldn't believe. Pronghorn I have hunted out in West can't run that fast. The craziest thing was, it was still stealthy. How the fuck is that possible? I could hear it through the woods earlier. Had it wanted me to hear it? When it closed in to approach us, it must have flattened itself out somehow and crawled on its belly because I lost track of it completely. As much as I was disturbed by these revelations, I would put them to good use. I needed to know exactly what it was capable of. But before that, I had to focus on getting us out of there and in one piece. The smell is not an exaggeration. When people say it smells like dog piss, wet dog and death, it's true. The one addendum I can add is that there is very clearly an air of deer blood. Deer blood smells way different than cow or pig blood. If you're a hunter, you'll know it smells different. And this was clearly mixed into the odours I was smelling. To this day, I don't know how much of that was it toying with us. I have no doubt in my mind it could have busted that glass or maybe even tore open the truck if it wanted to. Maybe it was getting off on the fear it was inspiring. Maybe it was reasserting control of the situation by inspiring fear. But something that looked very much like the werewolf from Van Helsing, but with a shorter snout and disproportionately longer arms, was messing with us. I'm guessing its shoulder or hip checked my truck. It bumped into us hard enough to rock us. It wanted us to know it had bumped us. The doors were locked, but that didn't keep it from trying the handles. I don't know if this learned behaviour or what, but it seemed like it knew how to open car doors. She was crying and screaming the entire time. It was very distracting. Her whimpers were miles better than her screaming. What was the point of all of that? We were miles from anyone, and she wants to scream? For what? It wouldn't stop it. It wouldn't save us. If there was any relief in the idea that moments before death you empty your lungs in as loud a noise as possible, really? It was a relief when she was too scared and too shocked to scream anymore. Once the door jiggling stopped, the next phase of intimidation came. It stopped trying to be sneaky, and it looked right in at me. I saw it raise itself up on all fours, standing on the ground, and then it stared at me. We locked eyes, and I'm not ashamed to admit that for the briefest of moments, in the face of all that malice, I was afraid. If looks could kill, this thing was a mass murderer. I had never seen such pure hatred and evil intent as I saw reflected back in those amber yellow eyes. This isn't how a wolf looks at you. It's not even how a wolf looks at prey. This was fury, violence, and rage all rolled up into a little look. It was baring its teeth, and no dog or wolf has ever had teeth like that. Closer to a hyena, maybe, but these things, they were made to pierce and tear. My guess the ones further back were good for crunching bones. My dad's knee always pops when he stands up. Both knees, basically, in unison. Just about every time he stands up. The sound I heard was like that, but on a much, much deeper, louder level. This thing started to raise itself up, and I heard that noise as its head and part of its torso left the window of the Tahoe. I knew this display was for my benefit, but she just sat there, getting an eyeful. I think she may have been trying to scream and no words were coming out. When at full height, it looked in at us. She pissed herself. Honestly, that was perfect. It was like insulting it and flicking its nose all at the same time. I was legitimately concerned for my safety at this point, and then it roared. Jesus Christ, it was awful. It was like the loudest Red Fox scream you've ever heard, mixed with the transformation scream from American Werewolf in London I have seen. Awful shit. I have done awful shit. No matter what, that sound will haunt me for a very long, long time. I needed to go, but just as badly as I needed to see how far it would push this, before I could fully process the need to aggress, I saw its hand press against the glass. It circled the truck, dragging its claws in a ritual of intimidation. It growled at us. Lion and tiger growls had nothing on this. You felt it more than you heard it. Then it accentuated its growls by tapping at us. To date, nothing has communicated more malice or more intent to do harm to me than that gesture. Time to go. I cranked that engine and let the modified V8 and 300 horsepower do my talking for me. He could signal. Well, so fuck could I. It wanted to get me, but it didn't know that I was there to get it. I couldn't be happier. I wanted to see how it reacted. Turn around was fair play. Pedal to the metal time. This was fun, but I wanted to meet this guy on more equal terms. I showered that son of a bitch with dust and pushed my truck to the red line, kicking gravel up all over it. For the briefest of moments, I thought we were clear. Yeah, I had heard the stories of these things chasing cars. I guess I hadn't really bought into the idea that they were that freakishly fast. Seamlessly, it morphed back down onto all fours and chased after us. I was lucky we were in a straightaway for that part of the road. I watched as it actually gained on us as my speedometer started to climb. I'm pretty sure it kept making up distance until it hit 55 miles per hour or better, and I don't think we actually started putting space between us until I hit at least 60. Unfreaking real. This thing had cheetah-like speed and crazy acceleration. It would have been something I would have to watch out for when hunting. For now, it was enough to try and drive and get more distance between us and it. I was trying to digest all of this when she started in with all the questions. Jesus, I was too amped up to hide my excitement. I was furious about the piss on my seats, but she had played her role perfectly. I couldn't be too mad. I tried my best to reassure her. But what exactly did she want me to say? I pretended to all of a sudden realise that she had wet herself, and we made our way to the next closest city. I bought her some clothes so she could change while I took my truck to the car wash to try and get the piss out before the smell set in. I tripped up a little. I was so focused on the next phase of my plan that I suggested going back to the campsite. For a girl that had having a hard time with a tent, I don't think she'd been able to sleep in one after that. I almost blew it, but luckily I recovered in time. I let her think it was her idea to stay in a nicer hotel, as if I was going to stay in some roadside motel, sleeping with one eye open all night. As bad as that thing was, I was about 10 million times more likely to be robbed and killed in a motel than for that thing to tear me up. I was close to my goal. I had to keep her satisfied whatever the fuck she wanted. I was going to get to reassure her. I had to play it really smooth. I had to make her think it was her idea. I had to distract her somehow to get her mind off it. I had to lessen the shock and play it off. I opted to get some food. Putting food in you is a natural reaction to stress, and loading her up with high-fat manufactured food designed to trigger an endorphin response was the best way I could think of to ease her around thinking too hard about what just happened. All my planning, my entire hunt, would be made or broken by how she reacted in these next few hours. I gently pushed her to eat and then got us into the nearest decent hotel. It's funny how a little bit of a diphenhydramine, HSI, is absolutely tasteless and tends to put people right to sleep. Well, maybe not funny. I had to get her to sleep. Your body's reaction can help dictate your psychological after effect. Some people deep sleep just to help relieve the stress of what I'd been through. And I needed some alone time to process and plan my next steps. I sat in the hotel desk chair, waiting and watching. My plan had worked, and almost a little too well. I had pissed one of these things off. We had challenged it, invaded its space, and marked it as our own. We escaped it when we were within its clutches. It had to get us back into its territory, or nearby, as soon as possible without arousing suspicion. I sat there in near pitch darkness, reliving every moment in my mind. It's important to go over these things and write them down while they're still fresh in your mind. The human memory is a funny thing, and I didn't want mine acting up on me. For a few hours, I wrote and rewrote my account, questioning every aspect so that I could better learn from the encounter. I compared distance, mental notes, questioned size estimates, noted every pitch black tuft of fur. I combed my memory for every last scar, any broken teeth. Finally, when I was satisfied that I had recounted the encounter in as much detail as I could, I lay down to get some sleep. She had started tossing and turning and then making weird barking and sniffing noises. I tried waking her, but it was no good. This was all deep subconscious level dreaming. I realise now, after the fact, that this thing may have indeed left some kind of metaphysical imprint on her. I had scoffed at such things in the past, and if it hadn't been for my own visions while under the influence of Shaman's hallucinogen, I might have blown it off. I was laying there, trying to sleep, when I heard something climbing outside. I can vividly remember thinking, there is no fucking way. I reached slowly and unholstered my pistol, trying my hardest not to move a muscle. A 44 mag snubby might give me just enough time to scream, "Fuck!" before this thing ripped my throat out. I heard it scrambling around on a fake balcony. Its massive body blocked out what little light was coming in. I tried to keep my breathing and heart rate slow. If this thing broke in now, I'd have had a snowball's chance in hell of fighting it off. I gripped the revolver's handle so hard I think I maybe made a nail bleed. I might not get out of this, but I was going to do as much damage to that thing as possible before it offed me. Maybe I could give it a nasty scar or take an eye. Hope he fucking chokes on me. For the most intense couple of seconds of my life, I waited until I heard it scramble away and the light from the parking lot returned. I holstered the pistol, breathing a sigh of relief. Well, the good news was that even after a significant drive, it was still able to find us. That should make the next part easier. I'm not really mad that it tore up my camping gear. I was mad that no one else seemed to see anything. All those people, and no one saw the 8-foot werewolf throwing my shit around. No one dialed the cops on their cell phone either. This was the quietest vandal ever, or no one wanted to believe what they saw. Oh well. She was here in the outside cleaning up. It looks like I cleared another hurdle. This thing would come from miles to get us. And after it left those tissues behind last night, it seemed especially interested in her. I was going to have my epic predator hunt. Wow. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Absolutely loving this series. Thank you ever so much, BicIsMyPensName, for putting out this consistent amount of work. I know it's not easy, and it takes a lot of time and planning. So thank you ever so much again, buddy. And don't forget to like, share, and comment. And as ever, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.